Hi, everybody. This is Paul in his study. The coronavirus has hit. I decided I would make some videos just to kind of try to help people through this time right now. I want to make sure that there is some way for us to connect, even if we can't get together in the office right now. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with a lot of people right now, and that's kind of this idea of fear and having to be isolated in your house. And some people even have some problems with like panic attacks right now. And I'm just going to try and create a series of videos just kind of in my own style. These aren't going to be terribly professional, and this is just me looking at my iPhone and recording some things. But I'm going to put these up on the website, and you can look at them if you need to, or if they are helpful in some way. But first of all, I just want to let everybody know that I'm thinking about you. Some of you are more alone than others. Some of you are alone in your houses. Some of you will be feeling the effects of this social isolation stuff more than others will. And so I just want you to all know that my thoughts are with you, and I'm hopeful that this thing is done as soon as possible. And I went to Costco the other day, and they get us to line up and social distance, and then it makes you feel kind of like you're in the middle of a war or something. Something terrible is about to happen, and I don't really like this whole feeling, but I know it's necessary. This need to wash your hands all the time and disinfect, and almost when I go to Costco, I feel like I'm almost on some kind of military expedition every time I head out of the house or get a few groceries at a grocery store. Anyway, I mean, I've never had a great relationship with fear my whole life personally, and I know many of you have had the same kind of struggle. And and now all this talk about social isolation, social distancing, it's just kind of feeling of being disconnected from people. It's really a nasty picture. Uh, just a thought about this invisible virus that could attack us unaware from somewhere with no symptoms. Somebody doesn't even carry any symptoms, and somehow they can give it to you and without warning. And it's just a scary, nasty picture. Everything kind of feels suspect. The groceries, the stuff you bring back into your house, it's like a recipe for a lack of trust in everything and everybody. Bad things could happen with a contact with others. The virus could be on your packages, on everything like that. There's so much unknown, and it could trigger those feelings that I have inside about the fear of the unknown that might rise up in me. And sometimes those kind of feelings get out of control. So that's mainly why I'm making this video today. One of my earliest memories of fear, or maybe even panic, when I was about 5 years old, laying in my bed. I just remember being tucked in, and the room was dark, and I can't see much, but when I look in the corner of my room, I'm sure I see a stranger staring at me in the corner. And now, I've never been much into fight or flight. I'm mostly a freeze guy. So I pull the covers up tight over my head and I yell in that kind of whisper yell, like little kids do, or you do in your nightmares. It's like, Mom, Mom, come and help me. I want to communicate so badly, but I don't know where she is. And I don't want to alert the stranger to the fact that I know he's there. And I'm not sure if Mom's even going to be able to hear me. So it's kind of like that feeling of being in danger, of being harmed, all by myself, all alone, and kind of frozen, kind of stuck. It feels like this feeling right now, kind of thing. I'm hiding under my covers, stuck under my covers. I can't see anything. And then she comes along and she turns on the light. And as I peek out, she shows me that it's the shirt and pants that she'd set aside for school the next day, that she'd laid out the night before. Oh, big relief. Big relief surges through me when she comes over and gives me a hug. And eventually I'm able to go to sleep with the nightlight on. And I keep looking at those clothes sitting on a chair in the corner. And I still remember that picture in my mind. I don't remember much from my childhood, but I remember that picture. And it was like this sinister guy was looking at me just for a few minutes there until Mom came into the room. I felt like that. And I was wondering what was going to happen. So there's two kinds of fear in my mind. Two kinds of fear I think that we have. There's this natural protective fear that you have, if a bear is going to attack you. And we need it. We need protective fear. We need to be able to run away from that bear. We also have big natural fears sometimes. And they come when we're kids, and when you're a kid, you have no power. And so it's a natural to be afraid of being away from people. It's a scary thought to feel that the parents would be gone. So, it's natural that kids would panic and have a lot of fear. So there's that kind of fear. And then there's this other kind of fear that I know a lot of people are having right now. It can be exhausting when you're afraid of what's going on inside of you, when you have that kind of feeling that things aren't safe all the time, and when you feel kind of stuck and helpless. And I know for myself and for a lot of people I know, those kind of feelings come up, and this triggers it right now. When you're feeling like you're on your own and your thoughts start to circulate in your mind, that's not a good feeling. It's like me hiding under my covers, waiting to know what's going to happen, waiting for the light to be turned on, all alone with my fears. So I thought I'd do this video so we could connect and we could think a little bit about both kinds of fears. The fears about, the real fears that we have right now, but also those kind of more deeper fears, those neurotic fears, the fears that kind of come about because we're afraid of what's going on inside of us, and there's some old story that's coming back. So anyway, first things first, there's some practical things we can do about real fears and worries. And I know there's a lot out there on that right now, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I'll just kind of mention some of the things I've heard lately. It's so important to have healthy practices right now to keep us mentally healthy and physically healthy and connected to that positive side of life that we could lose contact with. It makes us feel more in control, and that can be a good feeling. So besides washing your hands and social distancing and maintaining the disinfecting of things to get rid of that virus, those are kind of physical things that we do to keep ourselves physically healthy. But to keep ourselves mentally healthy, we need to do some things daily too, like sticking to some kind of routine. Even if you don't have things that you have to do right now, just sticking to a routine. Eating well and staying hydrated, getting out of the house at least once a day somehow, if you can, if that's possible. Finding some time to move, maybe going for a walk, maybe doing something where you move around your house, doing some exercises, yoga class, something over the internet. Limiting your amount of negative social media and media in general. Like, wow, you can watch, and I have been watching way too much news lately, but limiting that. Reaching out to others regularly online. Sometimes, especially if you've got a freeze response like me, you just kind of want to curl up into a ball and stop reaching out. And that's not healthy. It's good to keep reaching out to people, and there's lots of ways to do that now. Doing some kind of self-care, like doing a journal or doing something creative and finding time for yourself to do that stuff, because this could be a time of self-growth too. So finding something to pull you out of yourself. Showing compassion for others. Sometimes it's useful to be doing something for others. If you have kids, knowing that this is going to stress them out, and so they might act up a little bit right now. And so we need to listen to them. We need to pay attention to what's going on. Finding something you can control, like cleaning something up or doing something you wanted to do for a while, and making yourself feel like you have that sense of control again. Learning something new, reaching out for help from other people, and trying to find some meaning in what's going on right now, and maybe maintaining your sense of humor through the whole thing, having a good laugh sometimes with some people. Those are good things that can help and keep you on the side of staying strong mentally health. Those are the more superficial things, but they're important. These are things that we are able to change. Maybe we can change some of them. There's some things that are unchangeables in this world. The serenity prayer goes, help me to change the things I can and accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to tell the difference, or something like that. There's some things that can't be changed, and that's a problem too when we start to dig a little bit deeper into our fears. That'll come up at a time like this. The problem is we can't control everything, and that is a pretty scary thing to have to face. So let's dig a little deeper. And let's think about the things that are triggering us right now. Sometimes it's not necessarily just what I'm afraid of. It's not just, although there's a lot of scary things right now, but it's not just necessarily what that thing that I'm afraid of. It's a fear of all these things happening. And this kind of sense of powerlessness I have, or getting stuck, or not being able to do something about it, being kind of helpless in the midst of all of it. It's like I said before, and it's like me being under the covers. I'm alone, and I'm in danger, and I'm stuck. That's not a good feeling. It's scary to even think about. And it's before the light turns on. It's before I notice my clothes in the corner of my room really are just clothes and not a stranger. And it's not, sometimes these things can feel really scary. These are the deeper fears that we try to distract ourselves from. And those kind of deeper fears, we do a lot of different kinds of things to distract ourselves from, like take a drink or go online shopping. I've heard a lot of that lately. Or the Tiger King show or something else, just something that can distract us. The problem with that is it's important with these deeper fears to be able to face up to reality, to be able to accept reality and not stay stuck in our fears forever. It's important for us to notice them. That's a lot about what therapy is all about. We need to kind of acknowledge the things that we can change and the things that we can't. David Rico calls these are unchangeables, and he says there's 4 of them. And the realities are, we are alone. Things are going to change sometimes. Life is unfair sometimes, and we're probably going to suffer at some point. Those things are going to happen. And we don't really want to accept or think about them. We don't want to focus on them. They feel kind of painful for us. But the problem is when we run away from them, then we spend a lot of energy trying to forget about these things. It leads to those addictions. And we think and we plan and we worry about the changes that could happen in our lives. And we think about how we could magically maybe keep the bad things from happening and control the world. So maybe by worrying about things, by focusing on them, by trying to plan ahead, maybe we can stop these bad things from happening. But the problem is, as Brené Brown says, it rarely helps to prepare for a tragedy. Tragedies basically can happen, whether we prepare or not. Brené Brown talks about standing above a crib of a baby and imagining the worst for them. And about standing over the crib of your own baby and imagining the worst for them. And to keep on thinking about something that may or may not happen in the future, that most often won't happen, doesn't help much. It just kind of ruins the present. It wastes the now and what's going on today. So the reality here is sometimes we have to kind of be able to face into the things that we can't change. We've got to be able to lean into them and accept them and realize that worrying and perseverating about the future doesn't help. We can live in the moment right now. That's a tough lesson, and it's a tough thing to learn for all of us, and we're all on various stages of that. And the reality is that many people have been laid off right now and lost their source of income. That might even happen to you. Financial concerns really are a big problem right now. But when you look beneath financial concerns too, and we look for the deepest fear, for the deepest problem, and that's this feeling of being powerless, about losing control. Even financial concerns have to do with that. And maybe I won't be enough in the future to fix this problem. Those kind of thoughts. It's important for us to say them out loud and make them visible. Fear about things not getting better. Maybe things aren't going to get better. Maybe I feel like things aren't going to get better. The thing is, when we have these kind of neurotic fears, these fears of being powerless and helpless, oftentimes these have a history. You felt that way before in your past, probably in your childhood. Maybe you felt alone, maybe you felt in danger, maybe you felt helpless. Those are kind of traumatic feelings, and it's pretty discouraging things. So I don't like to sit around and think about that. So I run from my fear and I try to distract myself, and I try not to think about it or try to pretend it's not there. But the problem is it still lurks in the back of my mind. So what can we do about these deeper neurotic fears? Well, first of all, it's just what we've been doing so far. I need to stop running. I need to notice my fears, put them into words like I was just trying to do there. Maybe write them in a journal. Let's try to remember, what is it we're running from? What is the fear we're running from? Name it to tame it, as Dan Siegel says. If you can say things out loud, they can lose their power. And because we stick them kind of outside of ourselves and we can think about them differently. Now we have some control. David Rico puts it this way: we need to acknowledge the old story from my childhood. So where did I learn that fear originally? Where did I feel that feeling first? When did that happen? Am I still stuck in some kind of old drama, something that happened in the past? Do I still feel that feeling? Do I feel overwhelmed now when that story comes up? Maybe I can venture out a bit and feel the feelings I need to feel now. Maybe I need to feel anger or fear or sadness, but maybe I was unable to feel that for some reason back then. So when I accept it and I feel compassion for all the characters in the story, as David Rico says, so the parents, the kids, myself, and maybe find some meaning in it all. Maybe it's okay, because now I'm an adult and I've moved outside of it. This is a lot of what we do in therapy, actually. We tell the story out loud, and it takes some of the power out of it and some of the fears around it. Sometimes we can even exaggerate that story and from childhood, and it might be useful because you might even be able to laugh at it. And if you can laugh at something, it's impossible to laugh at it and be afraid of it at the same time. So I just want to finish here with a little story about the old mystics used to tell. I can't remember who this was, but it's a story about a person sitting in a dark room, and he's pretty convinced that in the corner of the room there's a snake. And he's sitting in his corner of the room. The snake is sitting in its corner of the room. And it's dark, and he can't see what the snake is up to, and he's afraid. Now there's a picture. There's a picture of fear. And just for a moment, he sits there for days, afraid of the snake. And then just for a moment, the light goes on, and he looks in the corner, and what he thought was a snake the whole time was actually just a piece of rope curled up in the corner. And then the lights go out, and he sits there in the dark again. And I want you to think about how that changes everything for him. That changes his feeling about the room, about life, about his safety. This is what we're trying to do. We want to turn the light on. We want to see that right now we are adults living in an adult world, that the problems that we face, those fears we faced, the ones from the past, the ones that go deeper about being powerless and helpless, those are old stories. And we want to replace them with new stories right now. We want to be able to sit and feel those fears and do them anyways. Sit with the fear and still do things. And there's something about the paradox of sitting and doing something when, talking to somebody or doing something when you're actually feeling a little fear. And somehow that kind of gives you more courage for the future. That kind of helps to conquer that feeling every time. So basically, I wish you well in doing things that are good for your mental health and doing healthy mental practices, in trying to make sure you keep that routine and trying to make sure you take care of yourself in the various ways that you can take care of yourselves, the routines you've done before that you know so well. And then I also wish you well in this time of the COVID virus, where you can sit and you can think about some of these stories that you've had in your mind, some of these things, that those feelings of being powerless or helpless. And if you can see them for what they are, if you can see them as that rope in the corner and not the snake, if you can feel them for what they are, old stuff, things that don't have to have effect over you anymore. And I wish you well in coming to grips with some of these things, because in every chaotic situation, in every crisis, there's opportunity to find yourself again. And just before we go, I want you to remember a couple of things. If you work with me, you'll know, put things away in your container. Just let them go in there and let the lid go on. We need to keep practicing this, giving yourself permission not to think about them for a while. Just visualizing them going away for a while. And then remembering right now that you're safe. Nothing bad is going to happen to you. Remember that. Remember that things are going to be okay for you. Especially for these next few minutes, this time that you're sitting right now, it's okay. And notice the things that are in the room right now. Notice where you're sitting. Notice your breath. Notice the saliva in your mouth. Notice what's going on for you right now. And feel the healing light inside of you. And let yourself feel safe for a while. I hope to see you all soon and in person. And maybe on video or phone in the next little while. And if you're watching this and you don't even know who I am, I am Paul Berg, and I'm a psychologist from Edmonton, Alberta. Connection Psychological Services. And I hope you all are doing well.